844-500-4242. That's the toll-free number of the Howie Carr Show if you'd like to join us here this afternoon, every weekday afternoon. And please check out my my latest podcast, Honest Howie's History. And it's about the upcoming primary battle between incumbent Senator Ed Markey and Congressman Joseph P. Kennedy III. And it's about all the 100 years of Kennedy political homicides against their opponents, mainly Democrats, but also some Republicans. I think you'll enjoy it. Go to HowieCarrShow.com and click on Kennedy Conspiracies and listen to it. Free of charge, and you can listen to it whenever you want. Hopefully, when you're not, hopefully you won't turn off the show. Wait till I'm off the air live, and then you can listen to my podcast. Thank you very much. All right, time now for the Chump Line, the recorded voicemail message service of the Howie Carr Show. Incidentally, we have a winner on the Whitey question. I should have mentioned it earlier. The first winner was from the 508 area code. He had Alcatraz and Leavenworth as two of the prisons that Whitey was at before he got out in 65. You could have also had Atlanta or Allenwood. Those were the four prisons he was in. But we have a winner, and that person will be getting a Dirty Rats T-shirt. Our Dirty Rats podcast series starts a week from today.
Howie, Joe Biden calling. Come on, man. Did I just hear you're having your leg cryogenically frozen? That's funny. They're doing the same to my brain. I mean it.
You're gonna need some of that cryogenic treatment for your back when you try to take one of those guns with 100 clips into the woods to go hunting with. I think you're gonna need a wheelbarrow, maybe even a semi-trailer.
Howie, I was a hitman for the mob, a mule for the Medellin cartel, and an FBI informant. I start Monday with the Mass State Police.
This is an amazing story about the Mass State Police, and the tips are still coming in. I still want to find out who the girlfriend is of this fat guy who's the Mr. Big, the guy who's acting. He's acting like a gangster. That's what the FBI said. He looks like a gangster, but he has a girlfriend, and he's getting his wife to do the dirty work for him. I never picture the guy as the gangster of love. I'd say he looked like Jabba the Hutt. Now people are saying he looks like Rodney Dangerfield, Jackie Gleason, and Mario Batali. In other words, a huge blubbery mass of Matthews Brothers, America's oldest window manufacturer, is the sponsor of the Chump Line. This week they're taking a break from political and social commentary. They're celebrating the good news that you can still book a charter on the hard merchandise with the fishing cousins, Joe and Jay. Email Joe at fvhardmerchandise.com, and maybe you too can hook a screamer.
He also kind of looks like Orson Welles.
Yeah, I think he looks. I think he looks actually more like Rodney Dangerfield than anybody.
He's got the beard going on.
No, look at that.
Photos.
Look at that. That's from the Globe. Look at the Herald photo from the previous one. It looks like he's taken off about. When you're that fat, you take off 50 pounds and nobody notices the difference. It looks like he's taken off about 50, and again, you can barely tell. What do you think, Taylor? Did you check out the Herald picture?
I can't get it.
Rodney.
The house in Martha's Vineyard? You didn't build that.
He didn't build that. White Grossbeck, the owner of the Celtics, built that house. Now he's selling it for about $15 million to Barack Obama. Barack Obama, who once said, at some point you have enough money. That was then, this is now. Apparently now there's no such thing as too much money. Right, Barack?
I guess a little like that fat guy you just mentioned, Rodney Dangerfield.
He gets no respect. All I get is an indictment.
Take my summons, please.
Take my $25,000 bail. Take it.
Who would pass up a waterfront estate in Hawaii for a waterfront estate in Massachusetts? God, can we red flag this guy?
If you have Secret Service protection for life, you don't need a permit to carry. You're never going to have to worry about those pesky red flag laws that are getting to be so popular.
I'm just thinking about this now. It's going to be so annoying having him living on the vineyard. How many people is he going to stump for in Massachusetts now?
He raised money. He and Hillary Clinton both raised money for the woman who knocked out Jim Lyons, the state rep from Andover. And the reason they went after Jim Lyons is because when they were going to put the third gender on the mass license plate, he said not applicable. There's 57 genders. He said, I read it on Facebook, 57 genders. We're going to have 57 genders on the mass driver's license if we're going to have 3. And they never forgave him for that.
Wait a second. Here's an idea. Is Michelle going to run for Senate?
I don't think. If she doesn't want to run for president, why does she want to run for Senate?
To start.
I don't think so.
Ruff, ruff. This is Bailey, the golden retriever again. Do you have a number for the Obamas? I like the idea of living on the vineyard. It beats barely hanging on to the ragged edge of the middle class.
Bailey apparently hasn't read the story of Barack Obama's childhood, or he wouldn't be begging to go live with him. Bailey, you could end up on that open air fireplace that they have on a stick, going around and around and around like the dog in Indonesia.
Hey, Howie. Barry and Michelle are going to buy a place down the vineyard, huh? Are they going to take Ted Kennedy swimming lessons? First you open the car door.
Yeah, how come none of these billionaires ever buy property on Chappaquiddick? I think it's a lot more affordable than on the main island.
Hey, here's a poll question for you. Which star, put that in quotes, will last longer on Dancing with the Stars? Sean Spicer or Howie Twinkle Black Toe Carr?
I don't believe I would be picked to be on the show, and more importantly, I wouldn't be trying out for the show. As in the words of William Tecumseh Sherman, if nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve.
Lovely. Did you hear that Jejun Gingis Carr complaining about caviar? It figures since that Deerfield dimwit feasts on fillet of fish when at his Cape Cod house, clearly he's never been to the islands where we sample the finest caviar at the Chanticleer.
What are the odds that Barack Obama is going to have John Kerry over to his new mansion? I think they're pretty slim. And the caviar mention is involved with this 300-pound state cop who just got indicted yesterday. He and his girlfriend used to go to this expensive upscale seafood restaurant on Central Park South in Manhattan. And one day they ran up a $468 tab for lunch, including $150 for caviar. It's kind of, and as I said, I could just see the caviar dripping off his fat neck and going down all of his chins. Kind of,
Bernie Sanders says he will make electricity virtually free by 2035. Coming from a socialist, that sounds awfully expensive.
Yeah, you know, electricity is already virtually free in Venezuela. Yeah. It's just, it comes and goes. It comes on a Sunday night and then it's gone for the rest of the week. I'm sure it'll be the same in Bernie Sanders' America.
So if global warming is legitimate, wouldn't you buy a house in the mountains, not on the edge of the ocean?
Yeah, exactly. We talked about that in the first hour. Exactly. I mean, I don't think he's obviously that concerned about global warming if he's spending $15 million on a house on Martha's Vineyard.
Oh, Jay Inslee, we hardly knew ye. No, I mean, I'm serious. I have no idea who that guy is or was.
I think he is or was the governor of Washington State. Yeah, you don't have to go home, Governor, but you can't stay here.
was your last chump line message. Thank you for calling Howie Carr. You chump.
All right, that's it for the Chump Line today. The Chump Line is the recorded voicemail message service of the Howie Carr Show. You can call and leave a message at any hour of the day or night, including weekends. The Chump Line number, if you'd like to leave such a message, 844-500-4242. That's 844-500-4242. Press 2 for the Chump Line. Leave your message. We may or may not play it at this time each weekday. The Chump Line is brought to you by Matthews Brothers, America's old... Exchange is the only precious metals company that I trust. Give them a call to get a free, no-obligation investment guide about protecting your future with an enduring investment in gold and silver. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, including peace of mind, by calling now. Call them today at 800-912-2300. And with Orion, you'll get more metal for your money. Call 800-912-2300. Taylor, what's the poll question? What are the results thus far?
Are you saddened or gladdened that Barack Obama is buying a house on Martha's Vineyard?
I'm saddened. Actually, I'm more maddened. We should have put that in as an alternative, but I'm saddened.
You know what? I changed my mind. I'm kind of gladdened because I like the fact that this big spread of a manse that he's buying is now everywhere. It's on the New York Post. It's on the Boston Globe. So it just shows what a hypocrite he is.
Yeah, it's hypocrisy on steroids.
Yeah.
17% say they're gladdened.
Okay, and now it is time. Even though it's Thursday, we are bringing the hate mail.
Let the hate flow through you.
I would be remiss if I did not say that Hate Mail Monday is brought to you, as always, even on Thursdays, by Piantosi Baking Company, celebrating over 100 years of baking excellence since 1916. They have the best bread, rolls, baguettes, anything you can ask for. Piantosi is the baking company you should choose. And now let's get into the hate, Howie. So I went on Twitter and I noticed that Fox had published a story about you and Pocahontas and, you know, your whole history there, calling her the fake Indian, et cetera, which garnered...
That was racist. I, a white person, was calling a person who was even whiter than me, or should I say much whiter than me, a fake Indian. And so, somehow that became racist.
I think you'll particularly like this comment. I don't know why they thought this would be such a great way to get at her. Scott Brown and Howie Carr tried it, and she won anyway. The DNA said she has some Indian. They end up just looking racist, which they are.
Some Indian.
Technically true.
Well, they couldn't find any Indian DNA, apparently, so they used Peruvian DNA. So she may be 1,024th Peruvian. I keep coming back to this, Grace. George Zimmerman, the guy who shot Trayvon Martin.
Yes.
His mother was a Peruvian, so he was half Peruvian. What did they call George Zimmerman?
A white Hispanic?
Yes. They called him a white Hispanic when they didn't call him a white man.
Yeah. It's funny how that works, isn't it? Also, Howie... As you know, we are in the Matthews Brothers studios. You are wearing your Matthews Brothers beautiful collared shirt. I'll probably be wearing one tomorrow or the day after. And so Matthews Brothers is a huge sponsor of ours, and they're a real fan favorite. They got some hate mail on a contact form, and this was how it went. Dear Sir, I see you are a sponsor of the Howie Carr Show. I will not buy a single thing from you. Probably an empty threat. But still, at this point, only deplorables are Trump supporters.
He probably lives either in a public housing project or a nursing home. So, yeah, I would say it was an empty threat.
So Bob, who does the really bad Christopher Walken impersonation, did thanks for writing. Empty threats are our favorite kind. Actually, based on the tone of your email, you are now embargoed from ever purchasing any of our products. Sorry. So no boycott necessary. It's like you with Dancing with the Stars. If you're never watching it, you don't even care. Also, here's another one. Heard bleep Howie Carr on local radio station. And then in parentheses, it was my friend's car, not my choice.
Oh, that's what they all say.
He was referring to someone's suffering through 8 years of Obama. Suffering from what? You racist loser.
I was suffering. Let me clarify that. My wallet was suffering. My wallet was lucky to survive.
And this is
so were my First Amendment rights, and my Second Amendment rights.
This is another favorite of mine. The best ones are the simplest. Who the bleep is Howie Carr? Care to explain, good sir?
You know who I am?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Thank you, Piantosi Bacon Company, for always sponsoring Hate Mail Monday.
Do you know who I am? I'm Howie Carr. On the scene is Victor Davis Hanson, and he writes for National Review, among other places. And he has a great column today, Progressive Democrats Renounce Their Former Selves. And he just lays it all out, how all of these candidates, or at least the ones that are going to make it to the next debate stage, have just totally changed their views on just about everything. And Victor Davis Hanson, thanks for being with us here on the Howie Carr Show. Who do you think has changed his or her views more than anyone else in the current field of Democrat contenders?
I think Kirsten Gillibrand has. I mean, she started out in your territory on the East Coast, upstate New York, close to you, and she ran in a Republican district, and she was mentored by Bill Clinton. And she ran against open borders, and she ran against illegal aliens having access to driver's license. She was opposed to sanctuary cities. She was a big pro-gun person. And then when she ran for Senate, she moved a little bit to the left, but, she was still a Clinton Democrat. And then now she's completely, I guess we'd call her 3.0. She's got into a third iteration. Cory Booker's close. Remember, he tried to run on a responsible mayor of Newark as sort of a Rudy Giuliani that had days with the establishment community, and yet he created this mythical, alter ego called T-Bone that gave him an ear to the inner city.
Yeah, well, it's funny.
They recreate themselves.
Yeah, Obama had a composite girlfriend. Obama had the composite girlfriend. This guy has a composite gangbanger. It's really weird, isn't it? I saw these quotes. He's got these weird quotes. I'd forgotten about these quotes until you printed them. I mean, I can't even repeat some of them. Who the bleep do you think you are? This is his made-up friends yelling at him. Who the bleep do you think you are? If you ever so much as look at me again, I'm going to put a cap in your ass. That's weird.
Yeah, it is. And then this sort of creating not just a new political agenda or a new political identity, but a complete, and you're probably the best schooled in the nation on Elizabeth Warren. And but even she, besides the Pocahontas identity, she wrote a book, or at least she wrote an article. I looked at one of her articles she wrote on flipping houses, and she was Republican. And so she was pretty traditional, and now she's way out there in left field. So they not only get a new identity, but they also get a new political agenda depending on the perception.
Yeah, well,
the primary, I think we don't know what's going to happen in the general election. That's what's going to be the 64th. If any of these people get nominated, are they going to go the full Mondale McGovern, or are they going to go back and pivot back?
Well,
can they?
The thing about Kirsten Gillibrand, now that you mention it, her transformation, she's one of these candidates who also changed her name, right? I mean, she at Dartmouth, she used to be, her name was, I think, Tina Rutnick. And now she's Kirsten Gillibrand. Yeah, go ahead.
Bill de Blasio did the same thing. You remember, he was Wilhelm. He had a very Germanic
Warren
name.
Wilhelm.
He took his grandmother's maternal name, I think, or something. So you can see what all this is reflecting. It's some kind of weird desire to be authentically non-Anglo-Saxon conservative or something, identity politics maybe. And they don't understand that. They keep saying, white supremacy, white privilege, and then we don't identify with our superficial appearance, and they go ahead and do it. And what they're doing is they're creating a balkanized environment where everybody is going to have a recourse to fall back on some medieval identification with their superficial appearance. Unfortunately, 70% of the country is white. Is that what they want to do, is create a new white identity by insisting that everybody tries to do that? It's suicidal if they do.
Well, let's get back to the name changing, too. This seems to be a Democrat phenomenon. Look at Gary Hart. Used to be Gary Hart Pets. Then you had that mayor of Los Angeles who took his wife's name and combined them, right? Remember that?
Rosa.
Yeah, that's right. And then he cheats on his wife and she throws him out of the house, but he's still got her name. I never understood that.
You remember how he was also he also gave us, as a Californian, I remember the lectures he gave all of us about the futility and the amorality of a wall down near San Diego, why he built the first wall around the mayor's mansion in L.A.
Just like Warren Wilhelm built the wall around Gracie Mansion higher. And then you had, you're not in that area, but further south, you had a congresswoman named, she first ran, I think against Dornan or somebody, as Loretta Jones, and that didn't work out for her. So the next election, she was running as Loretta Sanchez. Remember that?
I do. I remember that Barack Obama was known as Barry Obama, all until he got to Occidental, and then he went back to his authentic name. But he was Barry. He was sort of like a young country club golfer, Barry, and then all of a sudden he became his authentic Barack. And so it's a quest for what they think is an authentic, victimized, marginalized identity, either by assertion of politics or creating a fabric. At least I admired Ward Churchill, because unlike Elizabeth Warren, he went the whole 9 yards and put on the costume and the beads and the hair and
he wears the hair was very long. That's
he did.
Yeah. That's true.
She didn't make that effort at all.
No, she didn't. We just had
Warren.
No, we had a Gavin Clarkson. He's a Republican Senate candidate from New Mexico. We had him on a couple of days ago, and he was at Harvard for 5 years when she was there, and when she was the first woman of color, and he actually went to her office, knocked on the door, and tried to get her to speak to his Indian group, and she wanted nothing to do with him.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
She kind of pulled, you remember this New Mexican representative from New Mexico, that Highland, and she's now trying to get into the squad, I think, by saying that, accusing Trump of all this racist stuff. And she's billed as the first Native American congresswoman, but she just endorsed Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah,
so maybe Elizabeth's authentic after it.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about Joe Biden. I mean, you really went after Joe Biden, and it's so true. I mean, this is middle class Joe would now fit in perfectly at a cocktail party. I mean, if he could remember how to get there on Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard. I mean, he came out of the coal mines, and now he wants to shut the coal mines down. Or he said he came out of the
everything
coal
about him is, maybe he was the first to create an inauthentic identity. Remember when he claimed he plagiarized Neil Kinnock's speech from the Labour Party and the Labour Party guy in England, and said he was the son of a, what was it? Was it a minor? Or did he readapt the story to say he was the first person in his family to go to college and son of a steel worker or something?
Yeah, he did. He had everything but the Welsh. He had everything but the Welsh accent. Why am I the first Biden in 1,000 generations?
I know it, and he's done very well. He and his son and his brother and his son have got this sort of shakedown racket that they've used successfully vis-a-vis China and Russia and Ukraine and everything, and yet he's still old Joe. But then you want to shake him, and somebody should just shake him up and say, Joe, everybody has moved to the left and adopted an agenda that does not poll 50% on any of these issues. You actually have a record way, way back of having issues that do poll 50%. So why are you reinventing yourself? And I guess he thinks he has to be nominated first, and then he can reinvent himself again in a general election.
One guy I think you didn't mention, I'm sure you're going to save it for another day, is Bernie Sanders. I mean, here's Bernie Sanders. He's almost 80 years old, and he claims to represent the working class, and he's always talking about working men and working women and working this and working that, and he's never had a job.
No, and his wife, remember, is under investigation. She was. I don't think she is now by the FBI for some weird land deal when she was president.
Bank fraud. Bank fraud. Yeah, that's what she was. Exactly. She pledged some woman said, "I'm going to donate $10,000 to the college," and when she put in the collateral, she said the woman had promised her $10 million or something to that effect.
And then, and remember that he's a big feminist, but in his earlier salad days, didn't he write a column about, it was pretty sick fantasies of women, and it was sort of violent assault, and he did write all about
women,
that. And that was...
He said that women fantasize about being raped, being gang raped. Yeah, and he said that she said, why do newspapers always print headlines about gang rapes? Because the readers like to read them, and they sell paper, and it just went on, and it was all this sick stuff.
I know.
And of course, he said, when he was called out on it all those years later, I guess opposition research by Hillary Clinton turned it up. He said that was a satire. Are Republicans allowed to say something that they regret having written or said it was a satire, Victor?
No, I think I look at progressivism as sort of an indemnity policy. It's kind of wise if you're in these, you just take it out and you pay your dues and spout this nonsense, and then it comes in handy when you get in trouble, because it's not a window into your soul. Remember Joe Biden, the first clean African-American that was articulate? That was what he said about. Same thing with Harry Reid about Barack Obama. And Biden's got a lot of racist things. Yeah. And he said that about, you can't go in without seeing an Indian.
Well, just two weeks ago in Iowa, when he said, poor kids can be as smart as white kids.
I don't think everybody says he's going to make it because they can pull him off the campaign trail and then massage the audience or the occasion for his reduced, physical abilities. But I don't think he's going to do it. No. I think he's going to fade like Hillary did in September of 2016.
We're talking to Victor Davis Hanson. Did you hear him yesterday? He was talking about you're from a rural area. I mean, I think you're probably familiar with firearms. He said nobody needs a gun with 100 clips.
He did say, though, you remember he said that if you have a problem, just go get a shotgun and let it off outside your door.
Outside the balcony. I thought he was a middle-class Joe. I thought middle-class Joe has a porch, but I'm not sure middle-class Joe has a balcony, No,
when he said that, I went and looked at his house on Google Images. It's huge. He's done pretty well for old Joe.
Middle-class Joe made $15 million in 2017. That's pretty good for middle-class Joe.
Maybe you think he built his own business or somebody else built it for him. Or maybe he didn't know when it was time to not to profit.
Yeah, when the Bidens, Barack Obama wouldn't say you didn't build that business. He'd say you didn't build that racket, Joe. The Democrat Party built that racket. These people are, I mean, it's great copy for writers and talk show hosts, but these people are dangerous. I mean, that they get a total pass. You're right about that. It is an indemnification process to become a Democrat.
It is.
You never have to say you're sorry.
I think it's also a psychological mechanism. So you can live a good life, and you can be greedy, or you can be like the Bidens and run all these lucrative cons. But then psychologically, you're very, very left wing, and that makes you feel. And then, being for the new Green Deal or reparations, it's sort of like buying a Gucci bag or a Porsche or a BMW. It's what the very wealthy white liberals do, and they kind of virtue signal that they're farther left than the next person, with the assumption that they never have to be affected by their ideology. It always falls on somebody else but themselves.
Well, Obama, he's very concerned about the rising sea levels. He promised to lower them, and today he buys a mansion on Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard, not in the hilly area either, for $15 million. So how concerned could he be about global warming if he's buying a beachfront estate?
Well, Howie, was it Andrew Yang who said that we had to get out now in the debate, that it's too late? Didn't he say that you had to leave the coast immediately
yes,
because of global warming? Right. I wish that would happen. There'd be some good real estate deals.
Yeah, I hope he's got a 10-year mortgage, because if it's a 30-year mortgage, it doesn't really matter much, because everything's going to be over in 11 and a half years now, you know? Are the banks still giving out mortgages for more than 10 years? I'm wondering about that now that I think about it. All right, Victor Davis Hanson, I really enjoyed your column today. I always do, and you can read it. We'll tweet it out of National Review. Thanks for being with us, Victor Davis Hanson. Bye-bye. I'm Howie Carr. Do the death pool in the next hour. Gonna have to print up a wild card list for me there, Taylor. Got it. Okay. I don't know if you saw this. Bill de Blasio. He may be the next one to join Inslee and Hickenlooper in the candidate death pool, but he couldn't make a connection, I guess, to get a flight out to Iowa, so they let him do a Skype or something. I don't know what it was, but anyway, he came. The audio was off, and he came across sounding like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Cut 10.
I'm running for president. What we have to do in this country, I want to thank you for the fight you're waging every day. Organized labor in Iowa has been fighting a really, when you call him out, when you confront him, when you fight him, he doesn't know what to do with that. So I always say, when I conclude my remarks as a New Yorker, I want to offer my formal apology to all of you gathered there in Iowa. I apologize that you ever got to know Donald Trump. But this New York every day. Organized labor in Iowa has been fighting a really, difficult battle. Actually investing in working people, changing the lives of everyday people, providing support for education.
I like it better that way. I think he's going to go up in the polls.
I love that they just let him keep going. They didn't stop him.
Please clap. Please clap for Alvin. And how do we know that those were technical difficulties? How do we know he was not just sucking on a helium balloon before he went out there like that?
Somebody snuck some helium into his weed stash.
All right, I love this cut of Joe Biden with the 100 clips. Play that, cut 7.
And I'd walk through the estuaries, and the hunter guy say, "Damn, Joe, what'd you take my gun for?" And I said, "Let me ask you." He said, "Those cop killer bullets. What do you?" I said, "How many deer you know wearing Kevlar vests? Raise your hand." "You really need one?" "And hell, if you need 100 clips or 30 clips in a weapon, then you shouldn't be hunting, man. You're dangerous. You're dangerous." I'm not joking.
I'm not kidding you. 100 clips in a gun? That's a lot of malarkey. Come on, man.
And they'd say to you, "Take my shotgun." I said, "I have 3. I now have 5 because my son died, and I have 3 of his. I have 5 shotguns."
Wait, he had 3 shotguns.
He had 2.
And then, didn't he say he had 3? And then he said his son died and he had 3, and now he has 5. So he can't, now we find out he can't do simple math. All right. We'll be right back with the death pool. I'm Howie Carr.